This is episode 36 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview-style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. This podcast is generously sponsored by Think Global. Think Global is a business advisory firm working with women entrepreneurs around the globe to scale their businesses to the next level. Today, I'd like to welcome Andrea Learned. If you keep up with sustainability thought leadership, you likely follow Andrea on Twitter and have read her articles on Huffington Post. Andrea is founder and president of Learned On, a professional development consultancy focused on positioning sustainability leaders to leave a deep digital footprint of positive impact. Specifically, she coaches business and nonprofit executives in using their most authentic voice in blog post writing and on social media. Andrea has been in marketing consulting related fields for more than 25 years, which includes over 10 years of deep expertise in marketing to women. She co-authored the 2004 book, Don't Think Pink. She regularly shares her unique perspective and curates business leadership topics via her Twitter feed and blog, Learned On. Andrea, thank you for being here.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So I would love to know, kind of reading your bio, I want to know a little bit more about your book first and what led you to co-author that book.
Okay, the book is interesting, and it's one of those stories where there was no plan. It was good timing. My partner and I in the business were involved in getting more companies to just think about how women perceive things and make decisions, and we were surprised that so few people or organizations were thinking about it. And we found ourselves telling clients, what you should do is write a newsletter and become the source on your industry's topic. And so then we looked at ourselves one day.
Oh, thought leadership.
And we said, holy cow, we want to be, known as a source on this. And at the time, really, it was 1999 or 2000?
Okay.
So early.
That's early, yeah.
That marketing to women was like this, oh my gosh.
Interesting.
And the funny thing is we said, oh, let's just say we're experts on marketing to women online. That'll be our thing.
Okay.
And
holy cow.
We were able to own it. And so we were doing that. And then we turned the mirror on ourselves and said, well, how can we, this is what we would do with clients at the time too. It's like, what is your favorite publication? What is your resource for this kind of information? And at the time it was a publication called ClickZ.
Okay.
And it was like, dream big. Okay, let's write a 2-piece thing on marketing to women and send it in and see what happens. Well, literally within 5 minutes, the editor got back to me and said, can you write every 2 week column on this?
Whoa.
We were just thinking of doing a marketing to women channel. So it was one of those.
It just aligned.
And the book came about because, again, so few people or so few companies were coming out saying they were experts in it, that somebody happened to see that ClickZ had this channel and noticed me, and then they were like, hey, we'd like a book on that, literally. So it wasn't...
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about that, too, that's before social media, 2004, right? I kind of look at social media as, Facebook kind of hit, I don't know if mainstream's the right word, but mass usage roughly 2008. But that was when there were only personal pages. Businesses didn't even know what to do with it. So that interesting timing on that piece.
Yeah, really interesting. And so that kind of took off. And then for a period of time, marketing to women was what I was consulting on and writing about, and speaking, and kind of had that whole career just around the book.
Got it. So what I love about the title, and as a mom, I kind of think of this too. So the title is Don't Think Pink. But as a mom, I have a boy and a girl. Boy is older, girl is younger. The girl gets all the hand-me-down toys and even hand-me-down jammies and winter coats and whatever. But it's funny because I look at marketing even to little girls. Little girls are marketed to hard, and it is pink. And even things that she loves, like Legos, she knows that she should like the pink version of the Legos rather than the red and blue and yellow and whatever colors they are. Isn't that interesting?
It's interesting. And I've heard this from a lot of moms that children come out of the womb, and they're like, I need pink. And no matter how, and even parents that try really hard to be like, here's
we try so hard. We truly,
So the marketing is the toy companies and all those companies know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But then it gets to a point for women, I think, was just really, it's just like, wait a second. No, you don't market to women who sail. You market to sailors, and you market in a way that will really resonate with women.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I mean? So it isn't, we're looking at our big market and we're going, there are women and we're just going to turn everything pink. That was the point.
Right, right.
Snowboard company is going to have a pink snowboard. Now, you know, that they're, so that was sort of the approach. It was just, it just, and it continues today. That's why it's so frustrating, because the book is at this point over 10 years old, and there are plenty of other people that have written great books, and the wisdom is all out there, but it just continues to this day.
So how did things move or kind of flow from co-authoring this book and doing work in that space to what you do now?
So that's an interesting story, and it is, I guess, from an entrepreneurial perspective, it's really following my gut and kind of listening to what I was hearing. So in the marketing to women space, what always had interested me was how women make decisions and how that's different. And that's really sort of brain stuff. I wasn't personally so driven to help companies sell stuff to women. Because I don't think that anybody needs any help selling stuff, really. I mean, I think that we human beings need more help figuring out how to make good choices. So I looked at my knowledge and I thought, how can I leverage what I know about how women make decisions towards something that I can be really passionate about? And at the time I was living in Vermont and had a lot of friends working for Ben & Jerry's and Green Mountain Coffee Roasters and Seventh Generation. And it was all very socially responsible and a lot of environmentally aware stuff. And then I realized, hey, I can be a gender lens on sustainability. And it initially was on women as quote unquote green consumers, but it quickly led to women in leadership. So
got it.
It started with the consumer side. And then I was like, I'm way more interested in business to business.
That makes sense. Do you find, so I'm in the Denver, Boulder sort of area. Do you find that there are places across the country that are more focused on sustainability and leadership in the sustainability world?
Definitely. And it's, in my mind, it has to do with sort of the lifestyle. People move to Boulder, or people move to Seattle, or people are in Portland. And I was in Burlington, Vermont at the time.
Right. So, it sounds like so cliche. Like,
it's so cliche. We go like-minded, right? It's like, where's our people?
Right.
And then we wonder, how can we change everybody else? Well, if we keep moving to the same place, all in big, tribes together. So that's the issue, is now trying to spread the point of view.
Yeah. So one thing I read in your bio is that you work with these leaders on developing a voice, an authentic voice. Will you share a little bit of insight behind that? Because I think, and I'm in the social media space, and I think this is one of the hardest things, particularly not so much for the brand, because usually a marketing agency or marketing department develops that and develops the voice. But I think it's hard on the thought leadership side for leaders to refine that. You know what I mean? And it seems like there's some blockage.
Exactly. And to get comfortable with it. And I think I think the leaders themselves have sort of been molded a little bit about the communications, what the PR department is telling them, or what the agencies they've hired are telling them. And really what you and I know is it's your personal energy and enthusiasm and passion and kind of what you know to be true and why you're in your field. And that comes through as, oh, I'm so excited about this or that sustainability thing. And that the authentic voice of that, whether is, I guess I would say, backing up, is not going to be perfectly crafted.
Right.
So I've worked with organizations before that are like, okay, we've got this big announcement and here's the tweets and we're going to schedule them hourly and they're going to say this perfectly crafted thing. And I understand why they're doing that, because the thing seems in their control and they can be more, they think, strategic about it. But my whole approach is build that community before you need it.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And my whole thing is love, giving love before you receive it, which I get a lot of, guff about because it sounds sort of silly. But the point is that you know that you want to be known for XYZ and you're willing to give it 6 to 12 months so that you're known as the leader on that. What you're doing now is you're celebrating and amplifying all the smart people, the wisdom, the research, the cool companies doing cool things. My favorite thing is to be really passionate about companies that are doing sweet sustainability things, or really smart people that are writing Harvard Business Review articles about leadership.
Right.
That comes through in my Twitter handle. And I occasionally say, I'm riding my bike, I've got my dogs. And so it's a mix of my professional passions and a little bit of my own life. And it's intermixed, and I'm really comfortable with it. And I'm not heavily crafting anything.
I think that's so interesting that you mentioned heavily crafting, because I definitely feel and see that when we're working with leaders. And we have had an experience, and I remember the leader saying, oh, that word doesn't work for how I talk. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. We don't have to use that word in the future. But know that it's not about perfectly crafting. It's about sharing your story and being authentic and connecting. And if you use that word fine or not fine, I mean, whatever, and I think that's where a lot of leaders get hung up, is focus too much on those little details rather than being open and sharing their experience. And I think as a leader, and just what I was mentioning to you before this call, is one of the things, having run this company for 5 years and then just having been in the corporate workforce before that, it's interesting to know how many stories we all have. And when you share those stories, especially the bad ones or the failures or the times that you cried about XYZ, other people feel better. They're like, oh, that crappy thing happened to you. I'm so glad. It's like, well, I'm glad my crappy thing could help you feel better and help get you through that. And so I think that's where thought leadership to me is going. And I think you're right. It's not about the perfectly crafted message. It's about storytelling and insight into your expertise area.
Yeah. And I think, again, to the idea of sort of cheering others on, it's the same thing that you're talking about, which is, yes, it's happened to me, I made it through, or notice this company, it happened to them, they made it through, or isn't that a great story that, Bob Smith just shared about his experience? And I think loving up the experience that we're all going through with our work and amplifying the great stuff that's happening in the industry and becoming sort of a key cheerleader for just the progress and the movement that there is in any field, people are attracted to that. And so it's like, that person seems pretty. And I would say just in general on Twitter streams and social media streams, you definitely know who kind of the positive glass half full people are.
Yes.
And everyone knows that from a human behaviors perspective, that's who you're going to follow.
You're
not going to follow the complainers or the people that think they're great with no help from anybody.
Right. Right. And it's interesting because although we all have low points and businesses have low points and all of that, I think you're right about the glass half full. It's how do you look at that from your lens and turn that into a more positive or turn it into something more helpful rather than just putting the complaint tweet out in the world. So that's interesting. What would you say is one of your favorite things about being an entrepreneur?
Well, to what we were discussing before the call, even, it's just that I appreciate the ability to have a lifestyle that is, I do my hard work and I'm on the phone with somebody in London, or I'm and then I get off the call and I can just go walk my dogs for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Some people need more structure. I totally get that. I've not been in the corporate world in a very long time. And so I have this flow that I need. And so I love that part of being an entrepreneur. I also love that over the years, I've dialed it in and dialed it in and dialed it in and dialed it in. And so now when people ask me what I do, I say this very specific thing. And they say, oh, you do social media? I'm like, nope. If you want social media, go over there. Right. You're going to hire me for a specific period of time. I'm going to help jumpstart you. I'm going to get you thinking differently. And then we're going to say goodbye. And that's the way I like to work.
Oh, that's great.
So I get to craft or just sort of nudge myself and keep fine tuning. This is how I work. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. I've gotten more comfortable in that.
Yeah.
And then I have this life and then I'm just fully there and fully ready. And I have the best that I can offer for every client because I know how to craft.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going back to crafting my life now. I know how to shape and the boundaries that I need to do the best and most amazing job for my clients.
I love that you say, and if I'm not right for you, that's okay. Because and your next line was, I'm now there. But that takes a lot of experience and a lot of self-love to say, okay. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly in the beginning, we all have to hear no so much that it kind of is, it can be kind of ego shattering. Like, oh my God, that's a lot of rejection. But tell us how you got there. Like was it a turning point or was it just slow over time? What do you think?
I think it was slow over time. And now that I analyze it, because I've, worked with various coaches and stuff, people have always said, oh my gosh, you have really good boundaries. So even in my social life and it's just like, no, I don't want to go to that party. And I would say related to a, trending conversation in general is that I'm an introvert. I realize that I'm more of an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
So I do go into I would go into a dinner party and I'd be like, okay, I got 2 hours and then I have to leave. But the same, and I would say social media helps me with that because I'm on and I'm very active and I'm engaged. If I go to a conference, I am on and then I leave the room and I go and I'm quietly in my own hotel room for a while. So I got to that point because I noticed it all really even as a kid. I needed a lot of time alone.
Yeah.
And then as I started working, I was like, I kept thinking, that doesn't make sense why that person asked me to do it that way because this is the way that I know I can get it done best. And then I just started, sort of started trying and saying, hey, I can get this done, but this is the way I need to do it. And people would be like, okay. I think to your point with regard to just entrepreneurs in general, if you know how you need to do things to get them done and you are confident in that and you commit to that, I think people have never heard from people don't expect you to say, this is how I'm going to work and this is how it works best for me. But when you ask for that or you state it, they're like, wow, they have great boundaries and they understand what they're doing. No one ever says that to me. So, so you get more credibility in a way for understanding your own boundaries and really presenting it that way.
It's interesting that you say we gain credibility by knowing those boundaries because I feel like a lot of people want to say, oh, well, how do you work best? I'll work however you work. But that's not that doesn't work because then you're trying to work in a way that doesn't even work for you. Mm-hmm. So.
And the thing is I think for entrepreneurs, you have to remember that you are being hired to do whatever it is you do because of this expertise.
Right.
And in order to deliver fully on that expertise, you aren't going to fit into their bigger picture of how the person who usually does it this way. That's not, so you got to they're hiring me to do the best of this thing that I know how to do.
Yeah.
So I will tell them how that works.
That's good. So as we wrap up, I would love to know what is something that's on your radar right now that you think maybe in a year from now we'll all be talking about as a hot topic?
I feel like I'm so slow to the trends anyway. I do think that the conversation about balance or remote work or flex or whatever will come into more play. And related to boundaries, I just read a book recently called Essentialism by Greg McKeown.
Oh, okay.
And it's that idea of human beings and entrepreneurs just sort of realizing their own boundaries. And if they need to work, if they're working remotely, that's great. And just becoming more comfortable with that. So I think there's something to be said about just more flexible understanding and more remote work and just people really dialing into their own boundaries and being accepted and given credit for that.
That's interesting that you mentioned boundaries in the remote work, because I was telling a neighbor recently what I did, and his instant response, and we work virtually, most of us work from home, but his response was, oh, that must take a lot of discipline to work from home. And for me, I'm similar to you. I'm introverted. I need a lot of alone time. And I can do a lot of awesome work from home, particularly in certain parts of the day. to where it doesn't feel like I need discipline. I always needed more discipline when I had to work in a cubicle because there were so many people around where I'm like, oh my God, you guys are distracting me.
Yeah. Well, I know it isn't. And the boundaries are actually more of an understanding of how, again, back to how you need to work.
Yeah.
And so I would say that I'm not super disciplined. People wouldn't look at my life and go, oh my gosh, it's more than I know how I need to work, and I could fit this in, and I can be really there for a call, and then I'm off. And so it's more, we're better at producing our lives in a way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Great. It was fun talking with you.
Oh,
really
good.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.